Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I want to talk to you about something that I believe is happening behind the scenes at Palantir, and it's really good for us investors. So Codestrap, who is called Gandalf in the Palantir community, I had an interview with him once, and he's a very amazing, very knowledgeable person. He had to quit his YouTube channel. He used to make Palantir content because he started working indirectly for Palantir via a consulting company called PwC. And his job essentially is he's helping customers adopt Foundry. And he's been gone for a long time from YouTube. And he came back recently. And he put out a video called Palantir Coffee Tectonic Shifts. And this video explains also something that I've been talking to you guys about in my latest videos. If you look at my latest videos, Rocket Lab, oh my God, I make a lot of Rocket Lab videos. What happened here? So Palantir, I'm convinced $40 is coming and everyone is missing major acceleration. So in this video, I was talking about something that I saw in the Palantir earnings, and just it will help you understand the later part of this video. So basically, Palantir's numbers were okay, all the backwards looking numbers. So, meaning, revenue, margin, all these numbers were really good. But what was insanely amazing is the forward looking numbers, like the new customers that they're getting, the new deals that they're closing, the fact that they're opening up Foundry, that you can sign up with your credit card, and they're making it really easy for everybody to adopt Palantir. And I think that this is completely missed, and it's going to result in a major change in the future, which is obviously going to be good for the stock. So now, Code put out a video. I just want to show you a few segments of this video that explains this from a different angle, from his viewpoint, on what he's seeing on the ground and what he's experiencing as a developer. It's going to be a bit technical, but it's really going to be worth it as a Palantir investor. So all I'm asking for you is please make sure that you're subscribed, and let's go.
So the first, let's get right into it. The topic of today's video: tectonic shifts are underway at Palantir. The platform has sort of moved away from being a walled garden and something that's primarily used by a handful of enterprise customers and Foundry's or Palantir's FDEs to an open platform that can now be used by anyone to build value. And a lot of you have all missed the significance of this change, both what it means for the Palantir and its culture, and also what it means for all of us who are sitting out here on the outside, right? And so I think that first, let's just talk about the fact that this change in focus and bringing new people into Foundry is a big deal for Palantir internally. And I think there have been a little bit of restructuring, a little bit of change internally. This has been a long-standing battle, I think, at the company. And I think that if you look at some of the things that have happened that you can observe publicly, you'll start to put those pieces together. And so I think that one, just recognizing that as a culture, that the company has really had to change in order to adapt to this new way of being, this new world. They're doing it very well, and I'm extremely impressed with the people I've been interacting with as part of the support system and developer relations program. We'll say this is something they've tried before, and they have tried to move into dev relations before, and I don't think it had the right alignment and support. And it didn't work, and it looks like in this case, hopefully, this is going to work, and the team's executing really well. But let's all appreciate for a minute, what's happening is you've got I like this sandbox analogy, right? Like Palantir has this sandbox, and they have the most beautiful tools for building the most beautiful sandcastles, but it's primarily just been them in the sandbox. And then all of a sudden, here come these edgy, crazy, freaking who knows, where did these people come from, developers who are going to jump in the sandbox with them, rip up all the shit they've been building, misuse all the toys, put the bucket on their head, run around, I am Cornholio, right? It's going to be crazy. And I think it's a huge change. But look, it's better to have people in the sandbox and to play together, and you're actually going to build some of the most amazing art together, right? And these developers that are coming in, They're going to use the platform in ways Palantir has never intended, but that is going to create a source of friction. And I think that you really just have to be on board 100% with, we need to empower these people, because it's like skateboarding. I use this analogy a lot. It's like they're going to use this platform in ways you never intended, but they're going to build some amazing shit with it. And so this big shift, this cultural battle, this upheaval, I think it's ultimately good for the company. And it underscores that they've passed a key threshold here. They've gone through the Rubicon, which is they've gone from a data platform primarily used by enterprises to an application building platform that needs to be used by the world to create the next generation of software. That is a massive transformation. And you see it with AIP now. This is not a data platform anymore. This is a AI forward application building platform that abstracts away all the hard parts of the cloud, reinvents SaaS under a new distribution model that removes 90% of the complexity of building and delivering a solution. And it's putting it in the hands of like one full stack engineer, one data scientist and maybe mathematician, and a subject matter expert who can now go out and build epic shit, right?
So you heard it here. So basically the key takeaway from here is that Palantir went from a walled garden that was a pure data platform to an app building platform. And it's a huge shift also culturally in Palantir, and it's going to have a lot of ramifications in the future. And I really don't believe this gets enough attention, even by us Palantir YouTubers. I think this is why maybe Codestrap went back to YouTube. I have to ask him. But I don't think that it's understood how big this changes, and I think it's going to be a few more quarters until it works out. By the way, the link to his video is in the description below. It's a much longer video than the parts that I'm covering here. So part number 2, here we go.
Like, I would just say that as they've crossed this Rubicon and they've entered this new world of being an app building platform for the world, it's going to require quick addressing of problems in the platform that aren't meeting the current needs, both because it will turn developers off, which you don't want to do, but also because it's going to lead to this proliferation of Hiram's Law throughout your stack, and it's going to be like 10 times harder a year from now to undo that as people roll out applications and solutions that are built in ways that they shouldn't have been built, right? And that's not, in my opinion, that is not the fault of the developer. That's your fault for not giving them the tools they need to do their job. So that's my quick lesson on Hiram's Law and what I see sort of being a source of internal conflict, because what's going to happen is you're going to have to prioritize some things over others, and where does developer experience fit here, and like why, and what you'll get back into are these old arguments that exist internally in Palantir where they're essentially arguing philosophy. And I would just say that no one cares about your fucking philosophy if you're trying to be an app platform. The only thing that they care about is like rates of adoption, essentially your NPS score among developers, the cool shit that's being built on it, your rates of growth, etc. So like everything else has to be secondary, in my opinion, to the sort of developer experience and giving them the tools they need. So it's going to be a tumultuous, I think, next year at Palantir as these new priorities that are coming from outside the company, crazy people like me demanding things that need to be in the platform. Like, it's going to be a fucking shit show at a lot of levels. I think that it's going to be good, and ultimately, like, we all need to recognize, like, this is a massive tectonic shift for the company. All over the place, I'm seeing a huge uptick in adoption. I'm seeing a big uptick in adoption.
So it's so interesting because he is working with customers, and he's very, very knowledgeable. So he's from the front lines, and listen to what he's saying.
Oversell things. And I think that enterprises are finally figuring out that there's something to this Foundry thing, right? And like, they see all of the videos, they have this tool in their stack, they're wondering like maybe how to approach it or extract value from it, or maybe they've got some champions already in their org who love this platform. And so I think we are starting to see the I get it now moments around Foundry at a lot of these enterprises, and the funnel's opening up now too to customers who maybe previously couldn't afford Foundry, and obviously the broader developer community. So those moments are happening at a much faster rate, and you're just gonna have to trust me on that one. I also noticed like companies are very sick of the Frankenstein monster. If you go back and watch my interviews from like 2021 and 2022, I predicted that 2025 would be the inflection point for Palantir, and that was mostly driven around by my experience building these Frankenstein monsters and seeing the high rates of failure of trying to build your own Foundry-like platform, big data platform. There's a lot of shit to do. We'll cover in a second like what the modern big data stack kind of looks like, but like managing that complexity at scale is extremely difficult. And so my thesis on Palantir from a developer perspective was like, eventually all these homegrown initiatives are too complex, companies will scrap them, and they'll move towards a solution that's made by the industry. Because anytime you see all this undifferentiated heavy lifting and a large amount of complexity, what ends up happening is there's usually a platform that emerges that fills that gap, and companies can get out of the software business and focus on the business they're actually in, right? And I'm starting to see that. I'm starting to see that also business is sick of the misalignment between IT and the business. There is a very real source of friction of these long-going IT projects that have become, I won't call them boondoggles, but like it's sort of this thing where the business doesn't even remember why they started these initiatives in the first place. It's just like, it's been going on for so long, we just assume we need to build a data lake and a data platform and blah, blah, blah. So like, I think that there's this questioning that's going on, especially as like businesses grapple with supply chain disruptions, economy that's not doing all that great. Exactly why are we building this again? Remind me. And that this friction is like, they don't want to wait another year for IT to come up with a solution to a problem they need to solve today. This misalignment between the business need and the IT, sort of way they work and deliver, I think is very real. And it's what I observed years ago. And I could see that trend kind of snowballing. And I still believe that. I still think 2025 is sort of the year when all of these internal initiatives are going to face amazing amounts of pressure and will just ultimately be replaced by a platform that solves these problems. And Palantir Foundry is not the only one. There's things like Fabric, and there's things like Databricks, and there's other emerging technologies from Amazon that look very promising. And Amazon's had a pretty decent data platform for quite a while if you can stitch it all together. But Foundry is still the only one you can implement in weeks, not months, right? So I think that Foundry has this unique advantage of being able to recapture momentum in a much faster way. And now that the barriers to entry and pricing have come down so much, there's really no reason to just not use Foundry. Like, why would I want to take another tool that will take me longer and is harder to learn and is still an amalgamation of several services, like when I can just take this one product that has a good learning platform around it and has good support in consultancies and enterprise world to learn it and support it, like just use Foundry, right? So like I do think the aha moments are happening. I do think that people are sick of the Frankenstein monster, etc. And so let's just take a real quick look at what does that Frankenstein monster actually look like in the past and maybe what it might look like in the future. All right, so let's take a look at that Frankenstein monster. I just Googled this image. So the modern data stack, most of these are garbage. A couple of them are okay. But like I found this one was pretty decent. So like this is pretty representative of all of the components that go into our modern data stacks that we use for business intelligence and data-driven decision making. It's complicated, right? Look at all these things. Just look at the sources, right? Like, my God, having to integrate all these. Yes, there are data connectors. There's companies that specialize in this. Fivetran, CData. CData is the most common one I see. But like, it's still complicated. You still have to integrate these as separate offerings, developer tools. You need a whole team of engineers to support it, and you got to map all this onto a cloud architecture typically, which is its whole other set of platform engineering that you have to worry about. And typically when you do that, by the way, you do get vendor locked to a cloud provider. As much as you might try to obfuscate the control plane of the hyperscaler, it ends up getting embedded in your code. And I've yet to see basically anything at scale or any decent complexity be able to be portable between two cloud providers just one-to-one. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Don't go crazy in the comments. What I'm saying is it's just very uncommon and eventually you do end up getting those APIs embedded in your system. So you got that whole other layer to deal with, which is the control plane. And you try to use tools like Terraform to abstract it, but eventually you just end up having to write a lot of custom code to deal with it. So anyway, very complicated. And I often hear people like say things like, can't Tableau just do what Foundry just did? Well, no, because Tableau doesn't do all of this. Look at everything to the left of Tableau, people, right? Just everything to the left of Tableau. You don't get a modern data stack with a data warehouse or lake house with Tableau. You have to build all that other machinery, and then Tableau kind of sits on top of it. Tableau is a great product, so is Power BI, so is Looker, but they're shallow products in that they're assuming you have this data infrastructure to then use them. Whereas Foundry provides the entire iceberg, to not just the tip of the iceberg, but the whole thing to the left, right? And it does so in a way that it exposes it for non-technical people. It's like approachable. You can walk up, you can scroll through your data sources, connect SAP, connect Salesforce, connect everything else that's in your organization that you want to support. And you can do so with a visual interface, right? Anyone can do that, in my opinion. And then once the data source is hooked up, you can use Pipeline Builder. If you've been following my videos on the parsing of the SEC documents, you can use a visual tool to not only process structured data, but unstructured data like documents, right? Like, oh my God, like that's not even talking about how complicated this thing gets when you're trying to do unstructured data, right? So Foundry is very, very good at fulfilling all of these things and obfuscating the complexity, because the hardest thing to do in software engineering is manage complexity at scale. And that's why whenever you see these sort of undifferentiated heavy lifting that's going on in these spaces to manage complexity across multiple enterprises, eventually a company shows up that just fills the gap and provides a platform to do it for them. So anyway, that's the Frankenstein monster. Let's get back to the main.
So yeah, this was basically the part that I wanted to show you. I think it's one of the best explanations of the current state of Palantir and Foundry, and what is the problem that they solve, with also the competitive landscape that he explains here. And I'm very thankful he made this video, and it's really interesting to see that both me and him start to see the same thing, that there is like a really big shift going on at Palantir. I saw it in the numbers. He sees it from the front lines and customer engagements. And he is, again, I want to stress how much from the front lines he is. So when he says that he sees a huge uptick in customer engagement, then you better believe it's true what he's saying. So thank you so much for watching. His video link is in the description box below. And if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. I have already 9 channel members, 3 Patreons. So thank you guys so much. You are going to have some special perks in the future and some members only content. It's the same on the channel membership and Patreon. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Anyways, but the most important is that you're here, you're watching, and you're subscribed. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.